الآن يمكنكم المشاركة في مبادرة الأيام الرقمية تحت شعار انطلق بقوة مع جوجل، والتي يتناول فيها خبراء جوجل عناوين جديدة أسبوعيا مثل السحابيات، مهارات من جوجل، أندرويد، فلتر، ذكاء الآلة، فايربيس، ديزاين ثينكينج، مقسمة إلى دورات وورشات عمل يومية بالإضافة إلى مسابقات أسبوعية. شاهد الأيام الرقمية مباشرة على اليوتيوب وشارك رأيك وأسئلتك مع خبراء جوجل، واحصل على شهادة حضور في كل محاضرة تشترك فيها. هذا وأكثر من الأحد إلى الخميس ابتداء من الساعة 9 بتوقيت دبي عبر الرابط المبين youtube.com/gdgmena.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أهلا بكم في حلقة جديدة من حلقات MENA Digital Day، الأيام الرقمية لمنطقة شمال إفريقيا والشرق الأوسط، أين سنقوم بإذن الله بتناول الكثير من المواضيع، وأعتقد أنه إن شاء الله تعلمتم الكثير وسنتعلم الكثير. معكم عليان عبد النور، GDG تيزي وزو الجزائر. اليوم سنتناول تكملة للموضوع الذي عملناه في الحصة الماضية عن جوجل كومبيوت انجن، أين تناولنا الأساسيات. اليوم بإذن الله سنتعلم أشياء أخرى، وبطبع الحال إذا كانت لديكم أي أسئلة يمكنكم طرحها. الحصة ستكون بالإنجليزي، ولكن يمكنكم طرح الأسئلة وسنرد عليها بإذن الله. Hello everyone, welcome everyone. Zulf Lawan, Aliane Abdenour with you, GDG Tizi Ouzou. Today we are going to talk about Google Compute Engine. This is the second session because in the last session we did the basics. Today, بإذن we are going to discover new advanced stuff. So to begin with the stuff, you need to understand that every developer, it has what is called the SDK. So the SDK is a software development kit. So here is, you need to understand we have the SDK and we have the API. So the SDK, we are going to install this on our machine, and every time we are talking with the cloud, we are using what is called the API. So at the API, it has what is called the endpoint. So we are talking to something distant using internet or a network, a local network, using what is called the API. But the SDK is the tools that help us to program or to do stuff. For example, Android SDK, you need to install it in your machine so to be able to develop on Android. So the first thing we need to do is to install the Google Cloud SDK. So to do this, you just go to here. For example, I type Gcloud SDK and it brings me to this link. I just go here and choose my operating system. I have Ubuntu, I have a General Linux, and then I have a Mac OS, and then I have Windows. Since I'm using Windows, you can directly type here and install it. So I have already installed it because we have a long session. So don't worry, I will explain this step by step. I leave those tasks, for example, installing and so on, where you just hit next, 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 and so on. I leave it for you. What is important here is how to use it. So I have already installed it. So to test, I just type Gcloud. Gcloud. And then, as you see, it tells me you have an error, but at least it doesn't say this command, I don't know it. So this is the first step. So what is the syntax in Gcloud? So in Gcloud, let me zoom again. So I need something like 14, like this. So in Gcloud, we have the Gcloud command, and then we have another command and subcommands. So this is how it works. So the first thing we do once we installed Gcloud is to type Gcloud init, because we need to initialize our project. And as you can see, I have already initialized it. So I say, okay, I want to reinitialize it. So I type 1. So you just choose the numbers here. And it tests for my connection, or I can skip the connection using Gcloud init skip diagnostics. And then it tells me, what do you want? So I want to stop this job, because imagine he doesn't know me. Imagine that he doesn't know my email. So what we do, we just, let me clear the screen, Gcloud auth. So I told you Gcloud and a command and a subcommand. So if we do compute engine, we type Gcloud, compute, and so on. Now I want to authenticate my session. So I do Gcloud auth, and then I say login. What happens, it will open a browser and it tells me, who are you? And since I'm already connected, I choose my email, I allow this, and then as you can see, it becomes localhost, and then it comes back here. Why it becomes localhost? Because it goes back to the Gcloud SDK, and then it connects and it say, you are now authenticated. So now I'm already authenticated as this email. So what I do, I say, instead of doing Gcloud init, I say Gcloud, and I do projects list, because I want to list all the projects I already have. I can come here and let me this, and then start a new project directly, or I just type this command. And as you can see, I have already 2 projects. This one, it's been a long time. I made the mistake, instead of opening a new incognito mode, and it's still stuck here. And as you can see, they are 2 projects. So I'm going to use this one. So how am I going to use it? I use it using Gclouds, and now I say projects, and then I say set project, and I give it this name. And then, imagine I made this mistake. So what happens if I do those kind of mistake? It says, hey, this command doesn't exist. So you can do Gcloud help and search terms, and it will teach you how to set or how to do all the commands you need. So I redo Gcloud projects list. And now, because I'm not going to use the project, I'm using the configuration. So what I say, Gcloud config. So if I do Gcloud config list, now I can say Gcloud config set project, because I want to configure my project, not affect project. Project, and then I take this and I paste it. So now I just configured my project. And since an instance Gcloud compute engine belongs to a project, I need to see which instances are running. Using a graphic interface, I can use a browser, but imagine I don't have access to the browser. So I do Gcloud, and now I need to do compute, because now I am in the compute engine, and I tell him Gcloud compute instances list. I want to see which instances I already have. And as you can see, so I need to zoom again. I hope with 34, it will be perfect. So I have this instance, this virtual machine. It's configured in this zone, and the type of the machine is the free tier. And I have the internal IP and the external IP. And this is one that we configured in last session. We configured another IP address. By the way to do this, you just go to the Google Domains or your domain provider, and then you just update your IP address. Since what you do in the domain is that you buy the domain name, and then what you update every time, you don't update your domain name, you update your IP address. So we explained this in the last session, and how to buy an HTTPS for free using certbot. So since everything now is configured, in last session I show you how to access to this machine using SSH. But what we did, we changed the configuration, and we told him to not access like this. So instead of just clicking, I told you to use a different port number. So because the port number was changed from 22 to another port number, I told you to use open in browser window on a custom port. But since I have reconfigured everything by default to make it easier for you, I just click here, and then I told you to come here. So sudo nano etc sshd config, and then we reconfigured the way to make it password authentication yes. So password authentication yes, it will ask for a password using this syntax, SSH, and you have the user arrobas your IP address, and then we add the argument, the port, for example, if it's a different port. But this method is less secure. Why? Because if someone knows your password, you are done. So the new way, and the much more secured way, is using the certificate. In certificate, we have always, let me delete this. We have always two ways. We have a key, and we have a door. So this way, we use what is called a symmetric key, because the key that opens the doors, it's the same key that locks the door. So we use only one key. But imagine that we use a lock. In this way, the key only opens the lock, but we don't need a key to lock the door. And this algorithm, you can search for it. It's called RSA. And this is what we use in SSH. So in SSH, what we do, we send the public key to our server. And then the private key, we leave it in our machine so it can access using this private key, because this private key depends on this public key. Something like in math, this is it. So we send this public key, and we use the private key that we don't share. So by default, the compute engine uses this. How we can configure this? We can provide our own key. How is done? We come to our machine, and we do SSH agent. We already did that when I show you how we are going to host our code on GCP. So SSH keygen, it will ask me to generate a key pair. Since I have already generated it, we do cat SSH ID RSA.public. It generates two keys, one without the pub, which is the private key, and the one with the pub extensions, which is the public key. We take this public key, we come to the new machine that we want to do, and then we go to here, management and security. And if we go here in security, we just passed our public key. So we don't need to use a password. We only use a public key, but be careful. This public key depends on this machine. So if I change another machine, I need to provide another public key because this key is tied to the hardware, to my machine, operating system, and so on. So let's go back here. Since there is already one key that is already generated, we just click here and we go. Now, what if we want to use Gcloud? To use Gcloud, it's easy. The way that we access to it, since we write Gcloud, and then we ask ourselves, what are we going to do? We are going to use the compute, not the authentication, not the configuration, not the project. We are using the compute engine. And then we tell him, I want to access using SSH. Gcloud compute SSH. And then we tell him the zone where we are. Sorry. We give it the zone since we are, by the way, let me rerun this since we have our data, and then we tell him Gcloud instance SSH, and then which zone is situated my virtual machine. We copy and we paste this, and then we tell him the name of our virtual machine. So like this, and we are done. And if we didn't configure it with the project, we tell him which project we are. But since we already configured it earlier, we don't need that. And if I hit enter, notice that I didn't provided any sorry. So where I did the mistake. Sorry. This is not instance. This is compute. And as you can see, it corrected me. Sorry for that. So I say Gcloud compute SSH, and it will open PuTTY. And now let me configure. Where is the option? Change setting and appearance and change. So let me. So now I'm in my virtual machine without using any password. As you can see, I didn't type any password. I just used the public key, private key. Now, what if I have already changed my port number? Here, I just provide an argument which is called SSH flag. SSH flag is the argument that we are going to provide and tell him -p, capital letter, and then we give him the new port. Since this is 22, this is the default, nothing will change. But if in case you changed your port number, here you need this. As you can see, I just connected, but if I come here and change something like that, it will try to reach my machine, but it will be rejected because this port, this is not what I am using, and it's a closed port. And in the last session, we saw how we are going to configure all of this. But the way that we need now to use it is using the OS login. So what is OS login? OS login is this. So in Compute Engine, so let me come here. So we have the user here, my machine. And then we have our virtual machine in Google Cloud, and this is GCP. So GCP provides what is called the OS login and generate a new user that I didn't human, let's call it user human, and then this is just a user robot that it will be generated to connect those two. So we are going to use the OS login in a way to let Google Cloud configure a new user to use it. So let's configure this together. So there are two ways to do this. We just come to create instance, and in create instance, this is called a metadata. A metadata is a data of a data. So for example, if you take a picture and check the date of this picture is the data itself. So we come here and then we go to the metadata. So in the creation, we have two ways to do that. We either create a metadata in a project level, or we created it in an instance level. In project level, it will be replicated to all our machines. In instance level, it will be only available for the instance. And since we are using I have already configured this. So if I come here and I come to metadata, as you can see, let me zoom. You just add enable OS login and then you give it true. I will show you directly how to use it in console, so it will be much more professional. So to do this, I need to say Gcloud, always use the Gcloud command. And then since I'm using the compute engine and I want the instances, because I'm talking about the instances, so I need first to retrieve the metadata. So what I do, I tell him describe website. I want to describe I want to retrieve all the metadata. So I add flatten, and what I want to retrieve is the metadata. And since it's an array, I want to retrieve everything. So when I put empty, as you can see, I have this metadata. So what is metadata is this. So let me explain you this. The compute engine itself, there is another server where we use metadata. So remember one thing. So if you already hosted a machine, there is a difference between the OS environment variable and the metadata. The OS environment variable, they are inside the OS, but the metadata, they are seen outside the OS. So they are hosted in a special server. So this is the big difference that you need to understand. So let me come here. Since I retrieved the metadata, I want to add a new metadata. So this is not describe. This time I want to do add metadata. So instances, I want to add metadata. So, and then, for example, name, or for example, GDG MENA. So what happens now? I just added what I did mistake. So add metadata. Sorry, metadata. So now, what I just did. So Gcloud compute instances, add metadata, the instance. Yeah, I need what's going on with me today. So we need the instance that we need to add the metadata, and I just added it. And now if I retrieve, I will find that I just added other metadata. This is the key, this is the value. So if I wanted to do with OS login, I gave you the syntax. I just write here OS login, and then I write here true. Now, since it's already added, it's the same key. So if I want to disable it, I write false. So there is no command that tells modify. This is add. Since this is the same key, it will just be updated. So if I describe here, now I disabled the OS login. So I need to read this value. Sorry. Enable OS login. What's going on? Enable OS login. So now syntax is important. The key are important. So if I retrieve it, now we will find it as false. I just disable it. I don't need to add another key. So now I re-enable it, and I will show you how we are going now to connect. So this is the way how to enable the OS login. Now let's go and connect. And once you did this, you run the SSH occasion. Since I have already used it, now we need to send this SSH key. How we are going to do, I tell him Gcloud, and since we are always in the compute engine, but this time we tell him the OS login. The OS login, what are we going to do with the OS login? We need to use the SSH key, sorry, and then we want to add the key file. Once we show him that we want the key file, where is this key file? It's located here. So we give it here, and of course we are going to need the public key, and we send it to our machine. Login. What's going on with me? Case, because we need a lot of keys. Sorry for those typos. As you can see, let me repeat this operation. Once we do that, it generates a lot of information, and what is important for me is to check what is the name of this user. As you can see, there is no arrow bars, so you just replace your email with the underscore. So this is the user. Now, if I want to connect using this user, the syntax easy. So I just need to tell him SSH -e to tell him where is my private key. So my private key, so it's in SSH and ID RSA. And then I give him the email and I come to my compute engine and get my IP address. So come here, come here, come here. Give me my IP address. So I copy this, I paste it, and I don't need to change the port number because it's by default. And here I am. I am now in my virtual machine. So as you can see, this is a new generated user. So if I do ls, as you can see, this folder is new. So Linux didn't ask me for a password. It just created a new user using the OS login. So let me exit. So this is how we are going to do. So let me now log in again and let me run a server in a fast way. So to do this, I just need to simple example, a hello world using Tornado. Tornado is an HTTP server and a framework at the same time. You can use this or you can use Flask. And this one, I don't need it anymore. I will just work on my console and let me nano app.py. Let me pass this code. Okay, everything is working fine. Let me configure the port number, which is 8000. And we need to install Tornado, which is already installed in this. And now I just need to run. Let me do this. Don't do that. Why? Because when you run this, you are running it using this user, which is dangerous because you are using something that you expose to the public using a human. Always run your server using fake process. So this is the same as Apache or Nginx. This user belongs in the Debian machines. Always run your servers using this. So if I validate now and I come to my website, here is it. Now it works. So what is the syntax? I promised you to give you the syntax in last session. So here is the syntax. So sudo nano etc nginx and sit enabled default. So here is what you need to add. You just need to add Nginx as a proxy. So as a proxy, where is it? So you just need to add this syntax. You tell him, I want a proxy as header Y to change my, instead of giving him the name of Nginx, I want to give him the name of Tornado, which I can reconfigure. And then where is my Tornado is running, or Node.js or Flask. And then this is the location you want him to redirect. So every time someone comes to the root of your web server, you just proxy and send this request to Tornado or to Python or to Node.js instead of replaying using Nginx. And then your static files, you just give him this syntax. Later, I will share with you the whole code. And don't forget to add, in the last session we used the certbot, you add those two words. Why? So you can hear. So if I do inspect and I come to network, let me zoom. Right now, I stopped the server. I need to rerun it. No problem. And okay, as you can see, if I right click and then header option and you check protocol, right now I'm using HTTP2. HTTP2 is the future, but you need to use HTTPS with it. So HTTP2, this is faster, this is a new way. This has been proposed by Google using the protocol called SPDY. So you just enable HTTP2 and you are done. But there is a problem. In case I want to update my code, how am I going to do? And this is where we are going to start now using the real tool we need. And this is called the continuous integration and continuous delivery. So the concept is this. I have my machine. I have my code. I want to send my code in my virtual machine using, for example, SCP, in a way that every time it lands here, it gets refreshed every time. So the way to do this on GCP, this is how I'm going to use it. I will code, I will upload it to Git. This is not GitHub. This is GCP proper source repository. So let's call it source repository. Once I uploaded it, I'm going to trigger an event using Cloud Run. In Cloud Run, there will be a trigger that do something. And once I do something, I want Cloud Run to do something in my machine. Now, what is Cloud Run? Those two, we know this. This is like a compute engine. And this is my machine. Cloud source, we're already seen that. Now, what is cloud build? Sorry, what's going on with me? So cloud build, I want to build every time something and send it to my machine on virtual machine. Or in cloud build, I can decide to run it on Cloud Run. Or another machine using app engine. So I want to build something. Once I build it, I decide which solution do I have. Do I have a compute engine? Do I have a Cloud Run? Or do I have an app engine flex? Compute engine flex. And since I talked about Cloud Run and app engine flex, I'm going to run a Docker image. And Docker image, I want to bring it somewhere, which is artifact registry. So let me redraw this because it's a little bit blurry. I have my machine. I have another machine here. I have another machine here. And I have my compute engine and my machine here. And I have cloud repository. So this is a repo of Git. I upload my code here. This will trigger a cloud build. The cloud build will call artifact registry, and artifact registry will send him the Docker image I need. Once everything is done, I will send what's going on to my compute engine and I refresh the website. I'm going to do this now. So what we do, since I have already hosted, we already explained this long ago. So let me exit from my virtual machine and let me go to my website. And since this is a Git, so what I will do now, this is my website. I want to run this and refresh it every time. I want first to container registry. I will not use this because now Google migrated to artifact registry. So I'm just going to close the container registry. We will use artifact registry. And in artifact registry, the free plan, we have 500 mega. So let me come here. So if I come here, as you can see, I have already 500 megabyte every month. So to do this, I'm restrained to use Docker image that don't exceed this to continue to use my free plan. So what we did, let me run now Cloud Shell. Now Cloud Shell is, instead of using this in my machine, why not using a better connection at Google? So Cloud Shell is a free virtual machine. It's a temporary virtual machine. it's like it's not forever. Every time it gets restarted. So we just needed to use it now. So what I do, as you can see, Docker is already installed. So we go. I already come. Yeah, by the way, sorry. If you want the cheat sheet of Gcloud, you just can you please share the link? It has all the Gcloud. So this is the link if you need to understand the Gcloud cheat sheet. So here is a problem. If I go and bring the Cloud SDK Alpine. Alpine is a small distribution, Linux small distribution, because I'm always restrained in size. So if I do Docker pull, there is a problem. I use authorize because I want to authorize the outgoing. Now, this is the latest one. As you can see, even Alpine is a small distribution, a Linux distribution. Even with this, if I type Docker images, you need to see that I exceeded the size. So what I did, I searched for another Docker image that is less than this size. And I found this one because the OS login has been available since this version. So I searched for a version that is superior than this. And then because I just need this command right now. So if I do Docker pull, it will bring me another image, which is exactly what I need. So if I do Docker image to list, as you can see, this is far less than my expectation. So I can use this. And now what I do, I will just use Docker right now. I hope you already saw other sessions, so I don't need to explain Docker since the beginning. So Docker run IT in interactive way. Sorry, I need to retrieve the name. So Docker run IT, and then Google SDK, and I add the tag because I don't want the latest one, because if I don't put the tag, it will bring me this. I don't want this. So once I get inside this, as you can see, it already has the Gcloud content. So what I need to take this cloud, this Docker container and uploaded it to Cloud Build. Now, before I upload it to Cloud Build, here is Cloud Build. Cloud Build, it has what is called a trigger. A trigger, you can either use it in automatic way or use it in Google functions that we will see in other session. So set up build trigger, and then let's say my website, let me zoom a little bit, my website updater. I don't need description because I want to do it fast. Now I need to push to a branch. I want this trigger every time I push to a branch. Which branch? This one, in this repository. This is what we used last session. So I want every time I push to this repository, now which branch? I need the master branch. Every time I update this branch, I want it to trigger something. Now, what I want to trigger? Here is the syntax. Here we put the link to our Docker. So in this case, I will try a simple Docker image, which is bash, and then I try, for example, free, which is a syntax that is used -v human, for example, or let's just say free. I want to check what is this machine, or at etc os release. So I want to run a container which is bash, which is the strict minimum using Alpine, and then run this command just so you can see what's going on. Let me do done. Once we complete, this is like what I want to do every time there is something. I do create, and in create, I come to triggers here and then run. I don't need a new trigger. I just want to test. So run trigger, and this is cloud build. Cloud build, this is a machine that runs containers every time you do something. So as you can see, it brings me a new Docker image, and it installed it, and it's just an Alpine Linux. So right now, Google gave me another machine. So this is what we call serverless. I didn't configure any machine. I just ran something and it works. So what I want to do now, I don't want to make it easier like this. I want to upload my own Docker image. So I come to triggers, and I want to edit this. I leave everything like it is because I'm still using this branch. And I want to come to editor and configure the link of my Docker machine. So let me come back here where I was. I don't need this link. Okay. So now here, I need to configure the stuff. The first thing I need to do is SSH Cajun, because I want to do exactly what I did in my local machine and simulate it in the cloud. SSH Cajun, yes, I leave it empty. I just generate this. The second thing, I need to configure a new OS login user. So what I do here, I have two choices. Either I use a service account or my old user. So what is time? I can use the service account. So what I do, I come to Cloud IAM. So the service account is not human. This is just a program. Now, the difference between a human and a program is that the program you can configure to run without asking for password. But human, you need a password. Even if you configure using SSHK, that's a different case. But I need a bot. So I come to service account. So you can discover today what is a service account. And then I create a new service account. In the service account, I need to configure new stuff. So let's call it Linux or my website updater. This will be the new fake user that I'm going to use. And now, which roles it needs, I can tell him this is an owner. Don't do that. Always give the service account or any account the less privilege possible. So let me log in, the OS login. So the difference between OS admin login and OS login is that this one, it can use the sudo, but this one, it cannot use the sudo. This is not an administrator. So I will add them both. I will add this. I will add another one. And then I need a third one that you always need is the service account user, because without this, you cannot use the service account. So this is like who has the right to use the service account. So those three roles, I continue, and then done. So I just created the service account. Now what I need to download the key. So manage key. This is a JSON file that I'm going to use to enable using the credentials. So create a new key. I choose the JSON. I create it. It just, so let's call it credentials. Save it, and I'm done. Now I just created my service account. I don't need service account anymore. I just created the JSON file. Now I come back here. And since the JSON file is on my machine, not in this machine, so what I do, I exit my container. I come to those three dots. I upload the file. I give it the credentials. It uploads. But where did it upload? It upload on the Cloud Shell, not in my. Let's delete the credentials. Sorry, rm create. Let's delete everything. So ls, I don't have credentials. Let me re-upload it because I already have one. And now I have those credentials. I cannot show you the content because this is like a secret file. So this is like it will play the role of putting the password. So what I do, since this is in my Cloud Shell, this is not in my image, because if I do Docker image, it is not in this container. This is outside the container. So I need to copy this image to the container. To do this, that's easy. I just do Docker PS. And Docker PS tells me that there is no container running. So what I do, I add -a, all, for all. And then I take this name. You have two choices. Either you take the ID or you take that weird name. So I will take that weird name. I will copy it. So every time there is a new generated name, I will copy it. I will zoom. And I say Docker cp for copy. What I want to copy, I want to copy the credentials. Where do I need to copy it? I need to copy it to this weird name, to the racine. So this is the syntax, how to copy anything inside a container. And now, since I already contained it, let's rerun it. I insist, there is a difference between Docker PS, which is the container, and Docker image, because the image is like the original one. It doesn't contain the credentials, but the container that I just ran, it's the one that contains the credentials. So if I do Docker start eloquent, it just starts. Now I need to execute something. Exec, what I need, I want to execute in interactive way bash. Sorry, I just switched them. So I want, in an interactive way, I want to execute bash. And as you can see now, I have the credential here. I just run the SSH keygen. So if I do cat root SSH and ID, this is the public key I generated. I downloaded the service account. What I need now, I need to enable the service account. But before to do this, I need to run Gcloud and enable the service for the first time. So what we do, Gcloud inside the container, I remember, not outside, because I need that container to contain everything. And I want to cloud resources dot resource manager, sorry, manager dot Google APIs.com. So I need this API will be enabled. So I come here and enable it. So it tells me you need to set the project. No problem. I just tell him Gcloud config set project, and then this and 31.8.2.60. And now if I rerun this, sorry, I just Gcloud config list. I need to check who is, yeah. So why is it giving me this service? Okay, let me enable first using the, let me run first the service account and then re-enable. Just check if it works. So Gcloud, because I want to authenticate. So activate service account. Now with what? With the K file I just downloaded, which is credential. That's why I told you I cannot show you the content, because this is the password. So if I rerun it, oh, let me run it. Maybe it will work now. Okay. So since I did this, now what I do, I try now to redo the SSH using the OS login. So I do Gcloud and compute OS login. That's why I told you to bring the exact SDK SSHK, and I want to add a K file, which is in root SSH. I give him the path. Now I just finally it worked. So I show you the name now. This is no more the Aliane Abdenour Gmail and .com. This is a new user which is called SA for service account, and this number is the ID of the service account I just created. So if I unzoom, and then if I come to Cloud AM, and then I come to service accounts, you will see that, let me bring back the zoom. Can you please add half hour so we can finish? So as you can see, this is the one I just created, which is called service my website updater. If I come here in the information, which is the ID, its ID, we will see that it has the same as this one. So let me come here. This is 111. So let me check here. This is it. 111, it ends with 77. 111, it ends with 77. So what I need now, I will choose this user, which is here. Let me zoom again. This one. And then tell him SSH. Now I can connect using this user. Arrobas at, and let me take the IP address, copy it, paste it. I want to add the K, yes. And I'm just in the machine. To prove you that I'm in this machine, let me go to the /home. And as you can see, I have the user that I created earlier using a service account using a real human, and I have different service accounts. And this is one that create the first time we're on a virtual machine. So let me go back to this. Now we have finished this. I need to exit because everything is done. Now I need to compact everything and send it to Cloud build. So what I to artifact registry. So now, as you can see, everything is done. I take this command. Where is it? This command, and I will run it in a script shell. Remember this command. I will use it in few minutes. So what I do, I will exit, and if I do now docker ps.a. This one I need to convert it to an image because right now it's not an image. So what I do, docker commit, and then I take this name. I want to commit this name and give it a new name. So my website container, or let's say CI/CD container. And if I do docker image, there is my CI/CD container, which has 181, which is fine for my 500 mega. So now I need to upload it to Artifact Registry. We are done using this. We are done here. So I come to Artifact Registry, which is here. And then I do create repository. Create repository is just a folder. So my website updater. And then we choose Docker, the region. I need to choose the same region where I am. Why? Because it costs less money when you are inside the same region. The IP addresses are, when it's a private IP addresses, it's free. So I'm in South Carolina, and then I create that. The K, this is for to encrypt, because the difference between Artifact Registry and Docker Registry is for public images. This one, you have already heard about this. This one is for public image. This is where I bring you that image. Anyone can access to it. But the one in the cloud, this is private because you don't want to share the credentials. So I come here, and now I'm going to configure my my image and upload it. So I copy this link because this is what I will use. I bring it here. Now, if you do ls.a, you will see that there is a hidden folder. So if I do cat docker and then config, this is already configured. I have already configured. That's no problem. I will configure it again. So we run this command, always in the Cloud shell, Gcloud, and I want to authorize and configure Docker. So where do I need to configure my Docker? I want to configure it in the zone, which is US East 1 and docker.pkg.dev. This is the link we write. So even if you come here and copy the old link, oops. So sorry. Let me come back here. So if I copy this, as you can see, this is the link. So I need to configure it in this place. So if I run this, it's already registered, no problem, because I already configured it. Now what I need to tag this image to be able to upload it to that repository. So what I do docker image. I retrieve the name of the image. And then I take this, and then I tell him docker tag. What I want to tag? I want to tag my image. Now, which tag do I need to do is to give it the name. I just copy it here. So if I close here and I close this, if I copy it, I paste it here, and then I add slash and I add the same name. I just copied it. So I just tagged this, and now what I will do, I copy the second argument, and then I tell him docker push to this repository. And Remember those command. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a long process. There is waiting to upload. There is a small process using Cloud Run or Cloud Flex or App Engine Flex. But I prefer to show you this way so you can understand a lot of stuff. So I'm done. I just uploaded to my registry. So if I refresh now, I will find my Docker machine. So here is my machine. And I come here. As you can see, I just uploaded my own container. So if I come to pull, in the pull, I don't need all the command. I just need this link. This link, I copy it and I go to the trigger and pass the name. You see, to do this simple step, I had to do this. So now, once I bring this container, I need to update to run a script, some script that I will write. So I give you the source code of the script. So I made two scripts. So the first one is the copier. Copier, every time I upload I run the trigger, I want to copy those files to this link. Once I do it, I just need to SSH. That's it. Every time there is a new updated one, or I just use git pull. But I didn't want to use the git pull. I wanted to make it much more clear using SCP. So the service account, so they are just variables. So I need to change the service account because I created a new one. So let me come here and in the service account, I need to access to this one. We are almost done. Don't worry. I know it's long, but we are almost done. We just need to configure this. So every time, yeah. So this is my ID. And then I come to the here and I copy source. So in this one, and I'm done. Oh, this is just a git add. Git. So let me configure the name of. So I want to run the copier.sh. So here I need to run this script, copier.sh. So in the trigger, copier.sh, and I save it. So I tell him every time, as you can see, the script is the one that is here. So you can run any script that is in your cloud repository, and you just tell him this is the path. So the copier.sh is the same as the one, this one. So that's it. And I don't need this anymore. I need to done. And then everything, I save it. Now I need to push to the repository to make the trigger. Git commit.m something and git push. This is a simple git operation. So now if I come to the dashboard, I see that it's already running. Check, this is the time and this is the time, because I told him every time I push my code to the master, run this trigger. And as you can see now, oops, something failed. Something failed. Download the newer image. Yeah, it must. Let me run this in manual way. So if I run this, it must be a problem about credentials. And yeah, everything is fine. It's pulling the image. Okay. Okay. Okay, there is a build fail that I need to go with it. So let me pull this and let me try if it works. So in Cloud Shell, I run this. Check is everything is fine, is up to date. So if I run this, I want to investigate why I'm having this problem. Docker run IT and ls, and this is the same. So why I'm having this problem? Maybe it's about the artifact. Maybe it's not communicating using the build. So let me go to the trigger. Sorry for this. Let me check about the edit. That's fine. That's fine. The master. That's fine. The inline. The inline is correct. So if I come back here and let's copy again to make sure. And then the trigger. Wait. Sorry. You see, this is the mistake I did. Because zooming is not a good solution. So, okay, the args. Yeah, that's the name. So this is the YAML syntax. So if I do save, let's trigger manually. And okay, download complete. Yeah, there is a failure. Maybe it's about my repository. So I will investigate this, and once next session I will explain you why. So before I finish, I will explain you what happens in the dashboard. So here is what I did. I have a machine, and then I want another machine here, which is where is my server. So this is my machine, and this is the GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So what I do, I upload first with Git. I upload my code to the source repository. Once it gets here, I trigger on the master branch. It goes to the cloud build. Now, cloud build, it brings a Docker image from a repository, so from artifact registry. Now, once it brings this, I do something and then I run a script. This script, this is this script. Let me show you which script. This is one, copier.sh. I run copier.sh. Yeah. Now I know it's about SSH. It didn't access to the SSH. That's why I get, as you can see, I downloaded everything, but I made a mistake in the codes in source code. Don't worry, I will try for the last one just to explain you. So once I do this, there is something that it will copy here using this using SCP, and then I copy my files, which is app.py, and then I run Python on it. This is it. So let me check for the last time before we close the session. So I need to check this and nano copier.sh, and let me hard code everything. So this, let me copy this, paste it, let me paste again this, and no, not this one, service account, just 2 minutes and I will finish this, and then let me copy the host because I used variables, which is not what I want. I wanted to make it easier. Finally, I got mistakes, and then I want to SSH to this machine using the service account here. So let me hard code everything, and I don't need those 2 lines. So okay, service account, arrobas, service account. This user exists, this user exists. It ends with 77, it ends with 77. That's fine. Let me do this, git add, git commit, and git push. Now it should do something. If it didn't do, next session I will explain you what was the problem, because it worked and then I deleted everything and I changed the credentials. So maybe I have a small issue in credential. I will investigate on that. And then let me come to cloud build, fail. Let me come to the dashboard and see it failed again. So I'm sorry about this. So I will check about what happened, and then I will do, I directly start with a session where everything works. So I need to investigate about what was wrong using credential. It's just a problem about credentials. So if there are any questions, I know it's a mess. So if there are any questions, no. سيدي المهندس، سنستطيع التحكم في السيرفر عن طريق كما أحب على حسب المساحة الإمكانية المتوفرة لاستضافة تطبيقات الويب. Yeah, you can manage everything in distance, because what is the GCP? This is just, as you can, I told you that it's temporary, so you need to reconnect every time to the Cloud Shell. So what is it? This is just a distant virtual machine. And when we say virtual machine, يمكنك أن تعمل configuration كما تحب. إذا أردت أن تستخدم الكثير من lot of resources، عليك باستعمال سيرفر قوي، لكن سيرفر قوي ربما سيكون سعره أغلى. But if you want something small, you can go with this machine. We already explained it with this, the N1, the micro. This machine is for free. So the solution I just tried to propose for you, that was a complete set. Instead of installing Jenkins and installing complicated tools, I wanted to use the free tier. The free tier, this is what I tried to do. It worked. But what I did to make this session, I had to reset everything. So when there is communication, because in the beginning of the session, I told you that you see those signals, those are the APIs. So there must be something wrong here between the cloud build and the artifact registry. So I must have messed about something about this. So I need to reconfigure the credentials, or maybe it's about the service account that I have badly configured, but it worked in the beginning. Anyway, I need to investigate about this. And next session, inshallah, I will tell you the mistake, because the more we make mistake, the more we learn. That's fine to make mistakes. Any other questions? Yeah, and sorry, it didn't work as expected, but that's fine. So if there is no questions, thank you again, and sorry again since there is something that I missed. So next time, inshallah, I will tell you what went wrong. Thank you again. See you next time.